Hey there, you beautiful souls. Welcome to the Authentic You podcast, where we dive deep into the power of authenticity and the journey to rediscovering your true self. I'm your host, Kristina Holle, and I'm beyond excited to embark on this transformative journey with you. Ever wonder how authenticity impacts relationship, career choices, and overall well-being? Well, wonder no more, because the Authentic You is your compass on this incredible adventure. So what can you expect from our show? Well, picture this: heart-to-heart conversation, inspiring stories, expert insights on the importance of authenticity. We're going to tackle the masks we wear, the societal expectations we navigate, and guide you back to the essence of who you truly are. The Authentic You podcast, where real stories meet real talk. Get ready to shine your light and live authentically. I was a corporate junkie for 25 years in senior HR leadership roles. And then during COVID, I wrote a book called The Authentic You, which changed my life forever. And now I help transform individuals to tap into their best possible potential. And I'm here to tell you, I am much more interested in the parts where you've had adversity, where it's been challenging, and because I really believe that that's where true inspiration comes from. Not necessarily always when it's perfect. It's how you got through some of those challenging situations. They are actually the gems in the rough. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. What's love got to do with it? And when I ask that question, it really has everything to do with it. To do with your career, your relationships, your leadership, and most importantly, with your own personal authenticity. Too often, we separate love from some form of success. Love, we separate it away from power or ambition, when we're saying that it doesn't necessarily connect. But if you love yourself and you are in alignment with love, you are in alignment with the highest vibration, the essence of who you are. And it belongs everywhere. It belongs in your relationships. Like, do you love going to work? Do you love the people that you have in your life? Do you love yourself? And so show yourself that kind of care. Because I really think that this is the most important piece to personal transformation. When we understand love is actually the ultimate power. And it's an interesting word, power, because there's a narrative around power. And people wouldn't normally put love and power together. But real power does not come from control, force, and domination. It comes from love. Love is what fuels passion. It inspires action. And it allows you to show up fully and authentically. When you operate from love, you're no longer operating from ego. You lead from wisdom and courage. I want you to think about that. Think about places in your life right now. Are you operating from love, or do you operate from ego? And ego is really fear-based. Okay? So I'm going to go into workplaces right now just because of my background. Many workplaces out there, and it's the structure. It's not one particular workplace over another. It's how we've been hardwired. It's ego-led. It is so ego-led. Ego is, I'm the winner, I'm the best, I'm going to do whatever I can do in order to look like the best person in this situation. But the reality is, ego to me is the destructor of relationship. Because when we get so caught up in being that person, the one that looks really good on the outside, sometimes we have these conversations that we can't even believe these things are coming out of our mouth, because we're having a relationship where sometimes you say things, or even to your kids, where you're like, oh my gosh, what happened here? You end up having this conversation, but that's because it wasn't aligned with love. It was aligned with ego. I need to be the winner, or fear. I can't possibly lose, so I will do whatever I need to do to win. I will lie, cheat, and steal in order to win. Now, I'm here to tell you that whoever taught us this over the years It was very much from a materialistic state. And when I say materialistic state, I mean you got to be the best person out there in order to have success in your life. It's survival of the fittest. If you don't do what's necessary, you're never going to get what you need. Well, what if I flip the narrative? What if I told you you could get all of that and be in a place of power and love yourself and not have to be ruthless? We have to start with ourselves in order to really step forward with wisdom and courage. Because if we do that, when we step into our authentic self, the ego starts to shift away. It's not taking a lead. I can say this because I am a recovering egomaniac. Recovering. And I didn't even know I was in it. I was just so ambitious and so career driven that I was constantly looking for more promotions, more money, another job. Look at me. Do you see my title? Do you see who I am? Ego, ego, ego. Now, the problem with ego was that you can get lost in it. And it's like a treadmill. You're constantly running for the next hit in order to look good, in order to seem successful. And the reason why I share this story is that once I leaned into my authentic self and I integrated, and I have love, I operate from love all the time. Love first. And here's a simple example. I want you guys to reflect. When you have a fight or if something's bothering you, ask yourself this: is this coming from love or is this coming from fear? Because your behaviors will be very different. And when we lean into our authentic self, which is really love at the ultimate level, source energy, when you lean into that, you're so confident. There's no scarcity. You don't think that you're going to be without. You just are. You just show up and you do your thing. The way that I lead now is very, very different. It comes from a completely different space. I just intuitively can step forward. I do things that I love. I lean into that kind of stuff because I see the difference. And what it does, it actually lights up other people so they can do that too. Because love is power. It's not a control game. There's nothing to control. That is a false narrative that has been put into place. One that is of dominance and only one marching way. If we intuitively follow the way that you're desiring and how we to light us up, then we're going to be in the right place because it's our inner compass. And when we understand that, I find that extremely powerful. So here's a sidebar conversation. It's kind of funny. I think it's funny. For example, I would go to this one spa all the time in Canada. And I would go there, and I went there for 10 years. And after I did the integration work, I went and I think I got my eyebrows done or something. And I was coming out and I was chatting. I was talking about the retreat stuff. I was talking about all this cool stuff that I was doing. And the owner of the bar, of the spa, came running around the corner and she goes, "I'm sorry, are you in HR? Like, you've been in HR forever. Like, why are you talking about this coaching stuff or whatever?" And I was like, well, this book and things changed. And now I'm doing this and I love it. And I'm so like heart. And she goes, and they were just loving this conversation. And she turned around to her daughter, they're the owner. They're like, "Oh, should we tell her?" I'm like, "Tell me." I'm like, "Oh, sure. Tell me. What is it?" And they're like, "Okay, we were terrified of you." I'm like, "What?" "We were really scared of you." I'm like, "Me?" And they're like, "Yeah, you come in and we would fast track you for your appointment to get you in and out so you wouldn't get upset." And, of course I laughed about it, but obviously my energy shifted completely from when I was like very, very general, very ego based versus this love place where I'm like high joking, doing all this stuff and doing and actually being me. The reason why I share this story, one, they wouldn't have never shared that with me if I wasn't operating from a place of love, that higher vibration. They would have been intimidated and we would have continued the cycle. Two, I didn't even know I was doing it. I didn't even know that that was the vibe I was giving off. It wasn't like I was saying anything at the counter. They would say thank you and would go into the waiting room, and they would pick me up and I would leave. That to me, I find fascinating because it really demonstrates that control, power, ego-led place. I thought that that's what success was. And I was on this path of thinking, okay, this is the way we need to do things. But I didn't even say anything to these other people. And that was the vibe I was giving. And so that's what they saw through the armor, the ego. Oh, she has it all together. But that was what the old dynamic before I brought love in and could step forward with my authentic self. That's the vibe I was giving off. And to me, that's unfortunate because as we shift, we need more connection. We need to be operating from a place of authenticity. And when we do, there's a different level of wisdom and love that comes forth. You start to lead with heart. And the reason why I share this story is because I think we think that we're doing the right thing, but we haven't really nurtured our heart and our emotional intelligence and how we connect with heart. When we understand that it is love that builds trust and allows us to transform, it transmutes pain and whatever it is, it will help you transform and really become a force of nature in the most natural way. It allows you to connect on a much deeper level. Love is not weakness, but the way it's been conveyed in our society is that love is only in relationships. Love only happens, like it's very conditional. I get love if I look this way. I get love if I have this job. I get love if these things. But it's a false narrative. Love is the most pure, constant thing. Love is source. It doesn't get more than that. Now, I think it's funny because it's not until you start to bring it to awareness do you realize that everyone's longing for love, but not realizing they are love. As you integrate and understand who you are and love all parts of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, you realize, wow, okay, there's so much more here. Whereas ego is constantly trying to prove to other people that they're really good, they're really smart, or whoever they need to see them. That's why people's egos, quotation, get bruised, but because it's not solid. But when you're operating from your authentic self, which is pure love, source, highest, and our human aspects, so of course it's easy to fall up and stuff, but do you bounce back quick and get back into that love space? Are you leading with heart? The example I would say, when you have an argument with someone, are you more caught up in being right and hearing your version of the story rather than sitting back and saying, am I being kind and compassionate here? Am I operating from a place of love? And you would be quite surprised how often, until you bring it to consciousness like this, how often we operate from fear because we're scared we're going to lose. Maybe we lose that conditional love, which is a false narrative. I'm here to tell you, love has everything to do with it. It's how you tap into a space that allows you to bring in all this greatness, abundance into your life. To me, it's a scale. I'm going to make it very simple for you. At the top is love. At the bottom is fear. And when we're operating in places of fear, we get locked in. And when I say lower scale, lower vibrational space, that is being jealous, gossiping, being negative. That's when we're caught in lower vibrational space, in the fear space. But when we're operating in higher space, which is love, that's compassion, empathy, kindness. This is where the magic happens. Because when your perspective changes, then all of a sudden everything around you changes. If you are operating with kindness, then you're going to put that out there from an energetic frequency perspective, and you will bring that back. It will be incredible. We talk about love, understanding that this is what's going to liberate you. And love is how we connect. So if you ever felt like you felt trapped in your life and you felt like it wasn't yours, or hated your job, or something didn't fit, that version of yourself doesn't feel good anymore. It feels like you're wearing that mask and it's like that itchy sweater and you're like, oh gosh, I got to go back there again. It will be love that sets you free. And you're probably like, Kristina, what are you talking about? Well, if we're talking about the things that don't fit for us anymore, the job that you hate or the relationship that you're in that's not working for you, and you're still doing it over and over again, go back to the scale. Where do you think you're operating? Higher vibrational space or lower vibrational space? You're operating in lower vibrational space. Fear that you won't have an income, fear of what people will think of you, fear that this is what I'm supposed to do. What am I going to do if I don't do this? But if you operate in a place of love, so let's bring it up and just being like, hey, I don't love this, but what can I do that I love? Maybe it's something like a passive income. Maybe it's connecting with friends. Maybe it's changing a relationship. But you got to be brave enough in order to shift. But love will liberate you if you allow it to work the way it's supposed to work. I left my corporate career of 25 years and I worked hard for my career. It was everything to me. But I didn't realize until now how much that was a part of my identity. It became who I was. So much so that when I would go to a party, I'd be like, oh, do you know what I do? I'm like, oh boy, right? I see that now. I didn't see it before because the circle I ran with, that's what they did. It's the way we would show our egos were talking to each other, really. But I didn't walk away because I was running from something. I walked towards something. I wrote that book. That was my soul. That was my higher self. Channeled that book in 5 months. It was 300 pages. I never thought I was going to be an author. And I'm here to tell you, when you start to explore and you start to open up, it starts to set you free. Because I started to build a life that I loved for myself. A life full of purpose, and that I was meant to serve people. But I always say, it's like, get the knock. Are you going to listen? So I got the knock, but I didn't know I was listening. I was just always intuitive, and I started writing, and I couldn't stop. I can't even explain how it came through like a fire hose. I would wake up early morning and write. I'd be writing late at night after the kids would go to bed. And then I would do the same thing over and over and over again. And now the second book's in the works. I'm almost there. But it's interesting because now I'm getting called to talk and have these conversations. Because if one of you walks away and says, yeah, I'm going to choose love over fear today, then we're winning, because it's a collective effort. It's not a Kristina effort. It's about all of us. We all have to understand that we are so empowered to make changes in our life that you're never stuck. And even if you have moments where you feel like, oh, I can't get out of this, stand this. Energy, we are energy. Energy always moves. It does not stay stagnant. But it's, what are you feeding it? Are you going to pull it back in to stuckness, or are you going to say, I'm going to do something I love? I'm going to try and shift the dial a little bit today. Because when we do that, it liberates. It gives you permission to say yes to your soul and no to what no longer aligns. Now, what I'm asking you to do is listen to your heart. Be aware that we have been conditioned for a very long time about how we're supposed to think through all our problems, and how it's only our mind, it's our accomplishments, how smart we are. But the reality is we left out the heart. The heart is going to give us so much access to skills and tools that we don't even know of what that looks like. We have not even tapped that. There's stuff coming out now where it's opening up about tapping into your heart space and what we can do with that. It's actually incredible. But I'll tell you from what I've seen with my clients, when we tap into heart space, we heal. We heal. We don't think our problems through. We actually feel them through. And that's when you're understanding your emotions. You understand that they're teaching you. It's like this beautiful new language starts to emerge that we may not have even known existed. So I would say love is your ultimate compass. Questions like, am I chasing success? Am I chasing money? Am I chasing validation? I think that's your ego running into play. Because if you're chasing stuff, that's probably because you're looking for the validation there, the title, something to say, hey, you did it, you arrived. But that's your ego in play. But if you shifted to love into heart language, your questions would look something like this. What fuels my spirit? What fuels my spirit? Have you asked yourself that question? And to me, that question, even saying it, like I feel it in my chest, it's exciting to me. Because for some, it could be going hiking in a forest, and another one, it could be painting, another person, it could be woodwork, whatever it is. But please start asking yourself these questions. Another one, if you built a business, you had a crystal ball and you're building a business, a career, a life, does it reflect what you love? Does it reflect what you love? Now, that would be the future. But let's see where we're at right now, a balance and check. If you looked at your life right now and you did a 360 view, does everything in your life reflect what you love? Oh, and I just heard it. I heard someone say, that's actually, I heard someone say, Kristina, not everything. How can we do that? Not everything. We have to pay bills, and I'm doing these jobs that we're doing this stuff. So I just heard that. But that's not the question. The question is, does it reflect what you love? And if it doesn't, ask yourself why. And I just heard, well, we got to pay bills. And I'm like, okay, I understand. But that does not mean that you cannot have love in your life. Your job can be a means to an end, and you could still look around in your life and love many things. When we got caught up in the idea, like the version of Kristina, that your job is everything and that it defines you, then you've just locked away a lot of potential of doing things that you love. When you look at your life, I want you to look at all the things around and really think about what is going on, okay? It's like I'm giving you grace. I'm not coming in with judgment. I'm actually pouring into you and putting on the light. Imagine this. Pretend like we're going in a room and you're telling me everything that you're doing and how we're stuck and what's going on. All I do is turn on the light and say, hey, okay, use those little things that you were complaining about, how you thought they were like so heavy and they're like monsters and they get anything done. Look at, I turned on the light. It's a coat rack with a coat on it. It's not what you think it is. I will always be a disruptor. I will always be pushing you a little bit to reflect on what is possible. And when you understand you can base your life on the things that you love, I'm not talking your career. Career can be a part of it. If you ideally create a job that you love, that's what I'm doing. That's my business and building it out. But maybe not everyone has that luxury. But you also can look at, well, what are you getting out of work? Are you making any friends? Does it give you a good routine? Do you still love the fact that you can get a coffee in the morning? Are you connecting with people? I want you to really think about that. Does your life reflect what you love? Here's one that I want you to really sit back with. Remember, we're using our love questions for our ultimate compass of where we're going to go. What if you trusted yourself enough? This is where the self-worth piece comes in. This is where the authentic you kicks in. What if you trusted yourself enough to believe that love will lead you exactly where you need to be? Whoa. This is a big one because I'm asking you to take a leap. So think about what your thought process is around love. And we have been taught that, oh, well, love only shows up if I do these things. So to trust it kind of feels like, oh gosh, am I being a little bit naive? Does this seem too utopian? But what if I told you it's not? You can have love in your life right now, regardless of your circumstances. And it doesn't have to be a big, wild thing. It can be simple little things. Loving having a conversation with a good friend. Loving being with your kids. Loving going for a walk. But it's when you turn around and you look at your life in a 360 view that you're like, okay, I'm good. And what happens is that you see the areas where you're like, okay, there's some work here. Totally cool. We can fix that. That's easy. But it's when we don't know that there's work there and we don't know that there's opportunity to kind of shift and move through things that makes a big difference. There's big lessons for all of us is that you're not meant to live small. You're meant to make these choices so you can be aligned into your higher truth, the essence of who you are, which is love. And it's funny because until I went on this journey, I thought love was really, quotation, hippy dippy. Like, I didn't really think that. I didn't realize the magnitude and how powerful it is and how self-healing it is and how it can change the dynamic of your life completely. Love wins all the time. Love wins. So I just want you to remember that before we close, this is a choice. This is a choice in how you want to show up. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and behind the scene contents. And if you have any suggestions about future topics or guests, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, remember, stay curious, keep learning, and never stop exploring the fascinating world around you. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.